Washington just picked up a high upside linebacker in three-star Ezaya Tokio.
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into a special bonus edition of the Locked On Huskies podcast. I'm Roman Tomashoff. I'm the site editor with Huskies Wire. Thank you for making this your first watch or first listen of the day, as we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I'm coming at you on this Tuesday afternoon because three-star linebacker Ezaya Tokio from Oceanside High School in San Diego, California, just announced his commitment to Washington. And this is a really intriguing fit for me. I look at this commitment and I just think to myself that after Washington added 3 linebackers, or 2.5 really, depending on how you feel about 3-star Donovan Robinson, in last year's class, getting 4-star Zydrunas Rainey-Sale and 4-star Jonathan Epperson to commit, I was really curious about how this position was going to play out. And it's something where if you go to 247 Sports and you look through Washington's official visit lists, there are only 3 linebackers that are listed as, or excuse me, there are 2 now at this point, after Ramzak Fruin, the 3-star from Bethel High School, decided to commit to UCLA before his visit. The only other linebacker that actually ended up taking an official visit to Washington being 4-star Samu Moala from Lucifer High School in Los Angeles, who ended up staying with his commitment to Texas A&M, and even he was being looked at as an edge rusher by this coaching staff. So it's something where it feels like Ryan Walters, Brian Odom, this defensive coaching staff kind of looked at how they felt about linebacker and said, we're okay going a little bit lighter on the position this year. So enter Ezaya Tokio, who is a really intriguing prospect, in my opinion. At 6'4", 200 pounds, he's somebody who I think has really, really high upside. And you go and you look at some of the evaluators, and they'll tell you the same thing. And you turn on the tape, and it's something where at that size, he certainly has a lot of room to put mass on his frame, which is one of the reasons I think he is such an intriguing high upside prospect, because you can look at that frame and you look at the way he plays on film, and it's very clear that he can be a really versatile just linebacker in the same mold that a lot of these other players on Washington's roster are right now. When you look at how Devin Bryant was utilized during spring practice, how Ezra Alexander was utilized during spring practice, and the same plan probably goes for Zydrunas Rainey-Sale as well, even though he missed it due to the torn ACL he suffered during his senior year of high school. So that's very clearly one of the plans for Washington's coaching staff, is to go out and look for linebackers that are, obviously big and physical, can withstand Big Ten play, but at the same point aren't necessarily just guys that you're going to slot at one position and just go from there. It's nice to have one of those guys in, a Jacob Manu or a Buda Alukta, who are more of your traditional inside linebacker type, but having somebody like Ezaya Tokio, who can line up inside, and he shows on film really good speed, the ability to get sideline to sideline. That's really nice to see. But what really makes him such a coveted prospect, in my opinion, where Washington won out over Colorado, UCLA, Arizona State, and a couple other schools just in the Western region for his services, is the fact that I wouldn't be surprised if by the time he gets to college, he turns into an outside linebacker full-time at some point during his career. And the reason I say that is he's really, really explosive off the line of scrimmage. He generates great power for somebody who is 200, 205 pounds, somewhere in that realm right now. I think the way that he's able to generate just really good power from 1 or 2 steps is something that is very, very important, especially when you look at how that's going to fit into Washington's defense. Because there are so many times we saw during the spring, Ezra Alexander or Devin Bryant, like I mentioned a minute ago, walk down from an inside linebacker spot to play outside. And that's something where I certainly see him fitting very well in that role, because he's got all those traits that you look for to be able to do that. And one of the things that you notice right away, like I said, outside of that explosiveness, is he's got really good vision as well. He's got a really nice feel of just being a good pass rusher. He finds ways to shoot gaps and to just exploit holes in the offensive line, whether it be as a delayed blitzer, whether it be as somebody who's lining up as a stand-up rusher on the inside, stand-up rusher on the outside. He's got his hand in the dirt on a couple of plays. There are so many different things that he brings to his high school defense, and I think that Washington's coaching staff certainly sees that same vision for him at the college level. And this isn't even something where you can look at it and say, well, Washington struggled to recruit a whole lot of defensive linemen over the last couple of months, really, if you want to just go back that far, with Kari Wilder, Tristan Givens, David Schwartzel, Fasiale, and a couple of other players choosing to go elsewhere. And, I think even in that mold, if you want to look at it and say having him line up as an edge rusher, outside linebacker type is just finding a way to fill that need. I think that was always the plan with a guy like this because of what his frame can turn into with a couple of years in the college weight room, plus all of these things that he brings to the table. I go back to the burst and the eyes. It's something where if you need to line that guy up and have him play 35, 40 snaps at inside linebacker, you certainly can find a way to make that work. But if you wanted to play half a snaps there and half a snaps on the outside, you can find a way to make that work as well because he's got such long arms. He's got just all the potential in the world to end up taking a big leap forward during his senior season and rise through the ranks, which seems to be the consensus among a lot of the evaluators at 247 Sports, at On3, which is always nice for the optics. But it's something where you look at what Ryan Walters can do with a player of this caliber. It's something where in the short term, I certainly expect him to redshirt. I expect him to find ways to continue to put mass on his frame. And then in the long term, find a way to contribute in some way, shape, or form. And when I talk about, him potentially moving to outside linebacker full-time, a name that I reference is Hayden Moore. Washington took him from Michigan out of the transfer portal ahead of the 2024 season, and he played a little bit of inside linebacker just on scout team and different things during his 1 year there. And now coming into spring practice, he's transitioned to outside linebacker. And it's something where when you watch what Hayden Moore brings to the table, it's something where there are a lot of promising athletic traits. And I think Ezaya Tokio has a higher ceiling than that because of what his frame provides. If he's somebody who winds up being listed at somewhere between 235 and 240 pounds by the time he's done with his college career, that's not something I'm going to be shocked by. And that's something that this coaching staff can find so many different ways to utilize. And again, it's not in place of a David Schwartzel or a Fasiale. It was always meant to be a complement to that. And just finding as many of these big, versatile guys that can rush the passer from several different angles as possible, because that's why I kept bringing up Zydrunas Rahsjon. He's somebody who I think has the explosiveness and all the traits to do that same thing. And if you're looking for just what his role is going to be, I think that whoever that second inside linebacker is, or, when they line up like that, this coming fall is going to be the best way to picture what Ezaya Tokio might look like in this defense going forward. And he's a really great high upside prospect for all those reasons, but there are a lot of off-field reasons why this is a great ad for Washington too. And we'll get to those right after a message from our good friends over at FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing. Whether you're all about baseball, under the lights just like me, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach, which is great news for all Washington fans out there because it's 7.5. Again, I've said it before. I'm going to keep hammering this point home because I love it. Washington's 7.5 win total for this season is something that I would be slamming the over on. I think Damon Williams is ready to take the leap and become one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. With Jonah Coleman, Denzel Boston alongside him, this offensive line is ready to take a step forward, and I love all the upgrades that Jedd Fisch and this coaching staff have made on the defensive side of the ball too. Shout out to Ezaya Tokio for that down the line. But I think with all of those things being said, and with the way the schedule lines up, 7.5, it feels like a sure thing for Washington to hit the over this season. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. As Jedd Fisch has made very, very clear during his time at Washington, one of the most important things about his recruiting strategy is relationships. And this feels like another one of those instances with Ezaya Tokio where it's not just with him, where there are all these rumors going around that one of his closest friends on the recruiting trail is four-star defensive tackle TI Umu-Cais, and that the two of them have been very, very interested in playing together at the college level. And this is one of those things where if you need to find a way to get Ezaya in the boat to make sure that you can land TI Umu-Cais, regardless of the way the rest of your defensive line recruiting has gone, it's a really important task for your coaching staff to find a way to do that. So props to Brian Odom for making sure that this happened. And it's something where we look at now what Washington's front seven class can be. This helps it take a big step forward. Like I talked about with him being a versatile linebacker, playing some inside, playing some outside. However you want to divvy those snaps up when he gets to the college level, you can find a way to make that work. and you're adding the necessary reinforcements for Big Ten play. However you think that plan might work out 2-3 years down the line, that's great, but it's all about making sure you have the adequate bodies in the room to do that, and adding Ezaya certainly gives you a big step in that direction. Adding TI Umu-Cais would be an even bigger step when you just look at what he brings to the table as somebody who can be a true nose tackle, can probably play a few different positions along the interior of the line, and is just somebody who, again, after all the recent losses that I talked about a few minutes ago, has become probably the most important outstanding recruit, regardless of position, for Washington right now, because you would probably, just in terms of what this class really needs, rank him ahead of Davon Benjamin, ahead of Celestia Moa, ahead of Daniel Odom, whoever else that it is that you believe Washington should be going after right now. TI Umu-Cais, because of his positional value, needs to be the number one player on that board. So I'm really going to keep a close eye on that recruitment moving forward, where it's something where I know our good buddy Scott Eklund has talked about this over on dogman.com a little bit. It's been a little bit hard to read recently, where he wrapped up his official visits, sounded like he might have been interested in making a commitment rather quickly. We haven't seen it yet. He did release a top 5 the other day. It included Washington alongside Colorado, UCLA, Oklahoma, and North Carolina. So there are a lot of interesting schools in the mix there. And again, finding any way to make sure you can secure that guy after some of the losses you've suffered over the last couple of weeks has just become so vital. And it's something where just adding as many bodies to front seven, like I said, is so important. And it just kind of plays into, maybe you're going to get another win later this week. When you look at the top 4 for 3-star defensive tackle Ta'a Malu, this is just another big, just really promising, high upside kind of guy at defensive tackle. When you watch his film at 6'3" and 285 pounds, where he's somebody who's going to fly under the radar, because like I talked about on the Monday show, he's somebody who doesn't have all that acumen, where he's only played 1 year of football, but has all the intangibles and all the just athletic upside that you need to make an interior defensive lineman work. He's just pretty far away from seeing the field at this point in time. And if you're able to pick up a commitment from him when he announces his decision on Friday, that's just another notch in your belt, another win when you look at everything that Washington needs to do to overhaul the front seven. You need to make sure you find the immediate contributor kind of guys like TI Umu-Cais, but having big, promising bodies that you can stack the room with and project out for 2 or 3 years down the line, like you can with Ezaya and like, Ta'a Malu as well. Making sure that you add those guys to just supplement the just back end long-term plan of your roster is really important as well. So it's something where just getting Ezaya in the boat now is something where, as you just continue to see more players make their announcements over the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, just seeing that you have that depth that you're looking for in the long-term future of your roster is very important. And just, again, getting as many of those front seven players in the building as you possibly can, especially with what just looks like it's going to be a very small linebacker class, is something that I don't think any fan should be mad about, no matter, just throw the rankings out the window in this case, because it's something where you watch the film and you can evaluate the player however you want. I just think that the plan is very clear when you watch both of those guys' films on how they're going to fit. It's a long-term projection for sure, but it just feels like all the upside that you need is there. And there are so many other interesting things that I wanted to talk about in terms of the impact here, where to talk about the secondary for just a minute or two, it's something where now that you have found at least one more body in the front seven, I feel like it can calm some fans down if you do see one of these other secondary players make a commitment over the next couple of weeks, whether it be Rahsjon Duncan, the 3-star from Oakland, or 4-star Davon Benjamin, whoever it might be. Just now that you're continuing to stack bodies in the front seven, and it just doesn't look like you're taking loss after loss after loss to position, when you continue to supplement the secondary, which really is a big need for this class as well, when you look at some of the guys that are graduating after this season and just where the depth is, especially at outside cornerback right now, if you're able to add one of those other players to your roster, it's just a matter of getting that momentum going again and getting into a positive space after, like I said, you've suffered so many losses over the last couple of weeks. The more that you're able to do by just getting some of these high end, whether it be in terms of their star ranking or in terms of how you project them for a couple of years out down the line, about getting those kinds of players in the building. That's certainly how I feel about Rahsjon Duncan, where he's somebody who's got that frame to play a little bit of safety, maybe play a little bit of linebacker as well, because he's got that big, versatile frame where you can certainly throw 10, 15, 20 pounds on there and not bat an eye because of the way that he hits and the way that he is just able to make plays in space. And you'd find ways to make that work at safety, at linebacker if you wanted to. And that's just a really big thing in this class, especially when you look at another one of Washington's current commits in Gavin Day. And I just look at that guy's film, and it's something where you just see the violence, he plays in control, but the way he's able to come downhill and just lay such big, vicious hits, it's something where if you're concerned about what the front seven looks like right now, I feel like that's a guy that you have to take into account when you think about the rest of this class because of what the safeties do in this defense. And just with anybody who has concerns over the front seven, I think that there's going to be more positive news coming out over the next couple of weeks about where Washington's class is, and adding the guys that I just talked about, I think would be a really nice step in that direction. But I really do believe that you have to consider Gavin Day as part of that as well, just in terms of the versatility, because if you can consider Ezaya Tokio and what he might bring at two different positions, I feel like you can say the same thing about Gavin Day as well. That's all I got for you on this bonus show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Just a reminder, for all the bonus content like this and all the stuff that we're continuing to drop throughout the offseason, please make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We're there. We're everywhere. We're updating the channel with new content every single day. So please make sure you click that like button, click that little bell so you never miss when we post a new video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop right down below in the comment section. And if you're audio only, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, as it does help us out a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you on Wednesday.